Continuing on with the introduction into the sciences of the Quran, we picking up today with the 5th chapter, which is the subject matter. The subject matters, right, of the Quran. The last couple of lessons we started off with the Wahi, the revelation, how the Quran was revealed, the different ways that it was revealed through Jibreel, through inspiration, through dreams that came true, Wakada, and then we went through the how it was preservation, and how it was compiled, the compilation through oral, right, and then through written. And we also touched on the 7 ways that the Quran, the 7 recitations, that how it was revealed 7 different ways. We showed the hadith for that, and then we also showed every single Quran, all 7 different Qurans with the different recitations, and then showed a few pages inside of it to show where they have differences in recitation and in meaning, just like one is Maliki Yawmiddin and one is Maliki Yawmiddin. So when you know like the names and attributes of Allah, Malik and Malik is two different names. We see it in English and we both just say Malik. But Malik and Malik, they have 2 different names, 2 different meanings. So one recitation does have Malik and then the other one has Malik. 2 different names, 2 different attributes, 2 different sifats. So the Quran, so 2 different meanings, but similar in meaning, one just stronger than the other. So now we're going to get to the subject matter of the Quran, which is also important because it go through little certain things like part of beliefs, your Aqidah part, what it is how you supposed to believe, right? Then it has your commandments, you know, what you should do, what you shouldn't be doing. Then a certain portion of it that's stories, right? And then you have the parables. Some people refer to parables as like stories that you should learn from the meanings that's in them. Y'all know I like to look up words when they translate it into English to get the understanding that they wish for you to get. So let's look up the technical definition of parable, right? A simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson, right? A simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson. So like a little parables, man, things that you should learn from, that you should grow from. So getting into it, in Surah Yusuf, Allah Ta'ala describes the Quran as never was the Quran a narration invented. So when it's using the term invented here, the Arabic word that's in the Quran there is more like geared towards forged, fabricated. So when they're using invented, basically as we didn't make this up. This isn't something we just made up or created. So Allah is saying that because people was trying to say the Quran, and you even have people who say it now in this daytime, that the Quran was just stolen from the Bible or stolen from the Jewish stories. So that's what Allah is refuting that claim in the Quran by saying never was the Quran a narration, a book that was forged, fabricated, just made up and invented or stolen from the other books, right? But a confirmation of what was before it and detailed explanations of all things and guidance and mercy for people who believe. The Quran confirms and reaffirms what is mentioned in the scriptures that came before it. Allah Ta'ala himself says that the Quran is a detailed explanation of every single thing. Ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, said, whoever wants knowledge, then let them turn to the Quran. If you want knowledge, turn to the Quran. So this right here goes back to some of the conversations of Quran class, Quran studies have to be way more than just learning how to recite and trying to memorize. Not saying don't do those things. Those things are important as well. But if you want that knowledge, you turn to the Quran. Knowing how to implement it, knowing how to teach it, knowing how to explain it is far more important than knowing how to recite it. It's a hadith, I'm a paraphrase, but it was about an individual who it lists a few people, but one of them was a Quran reciter, top notch, right? So it's time for the day of Yom Kippur, and you know when he find out he going to the hellfire, it's like hold up. I went and learned the Quran so that I could teach it to others. Talking about recitation. I was a top-notch reciter. I was blowing that thing, you know what I'm saying? And it's going to be said to him, you have lied. You only did that so that people would say you was a beautiful reciter. You was only doing that so people, and then what did it say? And it was said of you. And then they're gonna be dragged to the hellfire. That's a hadith, man, that people need to take into mind. So like it's saying, Ibn Maksud, may Allah be pleased with him, said, whoever wants knowledge, then let them turn to the Quran. Imam Shafi'i said, nothing happens to anyone with respect to their religion except that there is guidance for it in the book of Allah. So again, like we were saying, you might have 20 surahs memorized. In all 20 of those surahs, there is at least one answer in every surah to possibly a problem that you have in life. So every surah has one answer. But we just for the sake of this discussion, we're going to say out of the 20 surahs you have memorized, 8 of them has the answer to the problem that you have. So you got 8 answers, 8 solutions, but you don't even know that it's in there because you only memorized the Arabic. So how is that knowledge going to help you? How you going to know the answer how can you turn to the book of Allah for the answer when all you did was try to memorize the Arabic and sound good? Right? So where it says there is guidance for it in the book of Allah. Once he said, ask me about anything and I will tell you about it from the book of Allah. This man said anything. Imam Shafi'i, may Allah be pleased with him and elevate him amongst the ranks. Ask me about anything and I will give you the answer from the book of Allah. Can we do that? Can we do that? Person come ask you something more than just make dua, put your trust in Allah. You know what I'm saying? No, something tell you strictly ayats. You feel me? So then he said that is why Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, would say that if I lost my camel's rope, I would find it in the book of Allah. Meaning that he would look towards the Quran for answers to all of his problems, both big and small. What we do? We call up a companion. Yada 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 and woo out the woo and woo out the woo zam. What would you do? I would do the wrong thing. I'm gonna do the wrong thing. Turn to that book of Allah, man. So look, and it says that The primary objective of the Quran is to teach and remind humanity about certain absolute truths and realities that form part of the system of belief in Islam. The system of belief in Islam is what? Aqidah. Right? Basically, it explains the relationship between man and man's creator. The second objective is to detail the rules and regulations that govern everyday life. It provides guidance for life as an individual, as a member of a family, and as a member of society. It provides guidance with respect to social, economic, and political life. Now, where in there does it say, now I'm not knocking it, trust me, the primary objective of the Quran is tajweed. The primary objective of the Quran is beautifying it when you recite it. Where did it say that? Not saying that shouldn't be done, but this is the top of the totem pole. This the top of the totem pole. Then it says the Quran talks about beliefs, Aqidah, right? Law, Sharia, no? History, and parables. It even contains knowledge that is associated with the fields of medicine, debate, astronomy, engineering, algebra, geology. Although the Quran contains knowledge regarding these sciences and many others, it is not a book of history, it's not a book of science, and it's not a book of medicine. It is primarily a book of guidance. That is why the verses of the Quran discuss 4 major topics. 1, belief. Right? 2, commandments. 3, stories. And 4, parables. Right? So then when it comes to the belief section, as mentioned above, one of the primary objectives of the Quran is to teach and remind humanity about certain realities and absolute truths that make up their systems of beliefs, that makes up their Aqidah. That is why Allah Ta'ala addresses the fundamental aspects of belief through the Quran. Tawheed, the oneness, well, not associating any partners with Allah. Risala, messengership, right? Akhirah, the barzakh, life after death. The Quran deals with these topics extensively in various ways. Tawheed, belief in the oneness of Allah, or not associating partners with Allah Azza wa Jal, is the cornerstone of this Islamic creed. This concept is so important that the primary purpose of all prophets and messengers, may Allah be pleased with them all, was to explain it to their people. The primary purpose of the prophets and messengers was to explain these books to the people so that you can implement them and use them as a way, as a means to get closer to Allah and stay on Sirat al-Mustaqim until it leads you to Jannah. Right? Linguistically, the word Tawheed is the verbal noun from the word wahada, which means to make something one or to assert oneness. When referring to Allah Ta'ala, it is the belief that Allah Ta'ala is one without partners in His dominion, one without similitude in His essence and attributes, right? And one without rival in His divinity and worship. It is the belief that Allah is the creator of the heavens and the earth and everything they contain without partner. He alone is the nourisher, the sustainer, the one who gives life and death, the Almighty, the All-Powerful, the All-Hearing, the All-Seeing, the All-Knowing, and the controller of all affairs. He alone has the right to be worshipped, and He is completely unique. Nothing in this universe resembles Him in any way, shape, or form. So, when it touch on that, it's saying nothing resembles Him in any way, shape, or form. So when it refers to Allah as all hearing, just because we can hear, do that mean that we saying we resemble Allah in any type of way? Although people try to reverse it and say, "Are y'all trying to say?" Because this is the Asheris. Now that they finally, some of the new breeds done finally started accepting hearing and seeing, but before some of them didn't, because they would say, "You saying Allah can hear means that you're saying that He has human the characteristics of His creations." Allah said He can hear. But are we sitting up saying we had a type of hearing that Allah has? Are we saying that an ant hears like Allah? Is we saying that a cat hears like Allah? A whale hears like Allah? Allah said He can hear. If Allah said He can hear, then Allah can hear. So by these things that He described, and by Allah saying that He sees, you can't say Allah can't see because we can see. This is not that type of comparison. This is a distortion. And it's really deceptive, man, because it misleads a lot of people. Because they go so far as to sit down and say, this can't be the book of Allah. This can't be the speech of Allah, because now you're saying that Allah has speech. Y'all denying the fact that the Rasul went and Allah commanded them to pray 5 times a day. That was a conversation that never happened. And the other conversations that was had. Like, so these is the things. So you do have to be careful. But just Allah say He can hear. Allah say He can see. We know stuff. Allah says He know everything. That don't mean we comparing ourselves to the attributes of Allah, because it's not the same. You understand? But we're not going to change the definition. If Allah say we can hear, we're not going to change that to that means He just had the power to be able to hear everything that needs to be heard. We're not going to change that to power, or we're not going to change that to the essence. Allah says hearing, we leave it at hearing. Right? So belief in, so then it comes to the next one. Belief in prophets and messengers, Risala, is the second most fundamental principle of faith. Right? It entails believing in and accepting all the prophets and messengers Allah Ta'ala has sent for the guidance of humanity, starting from Adam alayhi salam until the last and final messenger, the seal of the prophets, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. One must believe in all of them and accept the message they came with as the truth. Right? The third most fundamental principle of faith is to believe in the akhirah, life after death. One must have firm conviction that the life of this world is temporary and that the life to come is for eternity, and one must believe in the resurrection and judgment. One must believe that every single human will be held accountable for what they used to do in the life of this world. You gonna be held accountable, B. No ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. You're not gonna get away with nothing. You're going to be held accountable. I'm even trying to find something small on my desk, right? One second. I want to get something. I want to give this a visual. Okay, so what I'm holding here is a green peppercorn. A peppercorn. All the way down, we're going to be held accountable to what we do. Some English translations say to the size of an atom, to the weight of an atom. Now, in the Arabic language, I even heard a scholar saying this, but like, it's referring to like a very, very small ant. A small ant is smaller than this, because the term atom and all that type of stuff, you know, those is modern Kaffir things, you know, using the term atom and stuff like that. I want to keep holding that up, but it's smaller than this. This is very, very, almost like a baby ant. But we even just gonna use this. You're gonna be held accountable for the wrong that you do, down to the size of this. Do you know how much wrong it takes to be the size of this? Or we'll even say the weight of this. Can you weigh this? It don't take much to do that much wrong. And this is a peppercorn. So again, that was a peppercorn. We're going to be held accountable for everything we do, all the way down to something that's smaller than the size of a peppercorn. Right? So you have to keep that in mind. One must believe that every single human will be held accountable. This every human, regardless whether they call themselves Muslim or not, will be held accountable for everything that they used to do in this life. It includes in the way that they believe, the belief in the concepts of accountability. Is you gonna hold yourself accountable? Is you gonna follow up that bad deed with a good deed? Is you gonna go do some tawbah? Is you gonna rectify that affair? Right? And so this belief in the concepts of accountability, reward, punishment, forgiveness, and repentance, and paradise and hell. The Quran explores these topics in different ways and present them in different styles so that every sincere human, you gotta have that sincerity, every sincere human being searching for the truth can find it. It established these absolute proofs through various arguments and evidences. The Quran uses 4 unique types of arguments to prove these beliefs: recorded, logic, and observational, and experimental. In addition to proving these 3 fundamental aspects of belief, the Quran also rejects and answers doubts presented by different groups of people. Specifically, the Quran deals with the false beliefs and doubts of the polytheist, Christians, Jews, and hypocrites. And you know, hypocrites referring to the Muslims, man, that possibly need to get it together. So we touched the belief section. We're going to end there, and then when we come back, we're going to start with the commandments that's in the Quran. So this is how we should believe. This is supposed to be a part of our Aqidah, right? So just to touch a little bit of the commandments. The Quran can be thought of as a guidance for life, the instruction manual given to mankind in order to teach them how to live life according to the rule of Allah. By this context, the Quran is a book of law containing both commandments, and prohibitions. The verse that talk about law are known as Ayat al-Ahkam, or legal verses. These are approximately 350 verses. 350 verses that deal with laws. So, if there's 350 laws in the Quran, that means there's 350 laws that can be broken. Now, like I said in a different talk, we think a mujrimun is somebody out here running red lights and being a criminal in this society, in the Kafir world that you live in, or the man-made laws. You can be obeying every single man-made law where you live, but you might be breaking the laws of Sharia. You might be breaking 200 of the 350 laws that's in the Quran. That would make you a criminal. That would make you a mujrimun, because you're breaking the laws of Sharia. So obeying every law in the city or the country where you live at that isn't based off of Islam, especially if you're not in a Muslim country, right? Especially if you're not in what's considered to be a Muslim country, but you breaking laws out of these 350 that's in the Quran alone, you're a criminal. You're a criminal. So look what else it says. There are approximately 350 verses that deal with law. The commandments found in the Quran can be divided into two broad categories: devotional matters, Allahu Akbar, ibadah, we'll just say ibadah, and civil transactions. And civil transactions, right? Devotional matters are rules that regulate the relationship between between human, because we don't want women to feel like they being excluded because they use the term man, right? The relationship between man and the Creator. Devotional matters are rules that regulate the relationship between man, human, and the Creator. And civil transactions are concerned with humans and their fellow humans, how we deal with each other. So the commandments is broken up in them two groups: how you deal with Allah as a wajib, and how Allah gonna deal with you for dealing with him that type of way. Is you obeying his commandments and staying away from the prohibitions? Or is you indulging in the prohibitions and staying away from Allah's commandments? How you treating your fellow Muslim, especially if it's your spouse, right? So there are verses that give basic guidelines for devotional matters such as purification, prayer, fasting, charity, hajj, and sacrifice. These are also classified as the rights of Allah. The detailed rulings for these acts of worship are found in the Sunnah, the Hadith, the biographies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we'll stop there, and then we'll continue on bithni Allah ta'ala with the commandments, and then we'll get into the stories and the parables. And then after that, we'll get into the lessons on surahs, whether they Meccan or Madani. There's a little test and different things in here that one has to pass and get through, but we won't put that part out there. Nobody needs to. I don't want anybody to feel like they're being questioned or had to prove that, they're listening or whatever. So, Bithni Allah Ta'ala, inshallah, this was some benefit to the people. And anything that I said that was incorrect or a mistake, it came from myself and the shaitan. And anything that I said that was correct came from Allah Azza wa Jal. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.